The rain poured so hard that night it felt like the sky was trying to drown the forest. Water soaked through my thin jacket, chilling me until my teeth clicked. My hands shook as I held the supply bag they'd tossed at me before the run. Everyone knew I wasn't there to hunt. I was just another warm body to fill their numbers, nothing more. My blonde hair stuck to my face, heavy with rain, as I trudged behind the others. They moved effortlessly through the mud, their steps confident, their shoulders steady. Born wolves, born strong. Born belonging, and then there was me, a human, breakable, kept only because my mother had once been the healer they relied on until the fever stole her. After that, I became something between a memory and an obligation, a tool they didn't love but couldn't quite throw away. "Keep up, Sarah," someone barked, not bothering to turn around. His voice held that familiar tone, cold, sharp, almost bored. I forced my legs to move faster, boots sinking into the mud with wet, heavy squelches. The forest felt unusually dark tonight. The tall pines swallowed the moonlight and the storm clouds smothered the sky. Thunder rolled far off, deep and warning, like the earth itself was uneasy. I thought of my mother. She never told me bedtime fairy tales. She told me how to survive. How the smallest creatures outlived the strongest because they listened to their fear instead of pretending it wasn't there. "Courage isn't the lack of fear," she'd whispered near the end, her fever-hot hand gripping mine. "Courage is choosing kindness even when fear tells you to shut the world out." I hadn't understood then. I was 12 and only wanted her to stop talking about dying. But now, 23, soaked, alone, and walking with people who could kill me in seconds, I finally understood. Every day I stayed, every day I tried to matter, that was my rebellion. A howl tore through the storm, not a pack howl, something else, something wrong. The wolves around me stopped instantly. Even in human form, their senses were sharper than mine. I saw the shift in their bodies, relaxed arrogance snapping into alert tension. "That's from the western border," Ella murmured. She was the only one who ever spoke to me like I wasn't a burden. Near the Alpha King's grounds. My stomach tightened. The Alpha King almost never joined these runs. He was always managing wars, borders, enemies, carrying leadership like a weight no one else could lift. I'd seen him only a few times from a distance. Tall, dark-haired, eyes that didn't just look at you, they pierced straight through. People said he'd never recovered from losing his mate 5 years ago, that the only softness he had left was for his 4-year-old son. Another howl, closer. And then a child's scream. The pack exploded forward, bodies stretching, bones snapping, fur replacing skin as they shifted mid-run. Clothing shredded, growls rose, and then they were gone, massive wolves crashing into the darkness. I was suddenly alone. I should have stayed. I knew that. I was useless here, slow, fragile human. But that scream, it tore at something inside me. Before I could think, my feet were moving, splashing through puddles, stumbling over roots. Branches slapped my arms, my lungs burned. The cold rain tasted like metal on my tongue. I had no power, no training, but I ran anyway. Lightning ripped across the sky just as I burst into a clearing. Chaos waited for me. 3 wolves from our pack were locked in a violent fight with something huge. For a second, I thought it was a bear until it moved. Too fast, too twisted. Its eyes flashed red in the lightning, saliva foaming at its jaws. Its body jerked like it was being pulled by invisible strings. Rabid, infected, a creature that would fight until every bone in its body shattered, and behind it, pressed against a fallen log, was a child. He looked no older than 4, his tiny face smeared with mud and tears. Eyes wide, gray eyes, the exact same shade as the Alpha King's. His leg was bent in a way that made my stomach twist. He was shaking, scrambling backward even though he couldn't move. The terror on his face felt like something sharp lodging itself in my chest. And in that moment, everything inside me froze, except my heart, which felt like it cracked open. The infected creature lunged for the boy, breaking past the wolves with a burst of horrifying speed. I didn't think, I just moved. My body hit his tiny frame, knocking him out of the creature's path a heartbeat before its claws sliced through the air where he'd been. We rolled in the mud, and I pulled him against me, curling over him as tightly as I could. My back faced the creature, my arms wrapped around his shaking little body. "It's okay," I whispered, even though nothing was okay. "I've got you." The first arrow slammed into my shoulder like lightning striking bone. I'd never felt pain like that, searing, blinding, exploding all the way down my arm. My breath caught in my throat, vision swimming, but I didn't move. I couldn't. Moving meant exposing him. Through the haze of pain, I understood what was happening. The warriors were firing arrows coated with silver and wolfsbane, the only thing strong enough to bring down something infected this badly. But in the rain, darkness, and chaos, they couldn't see that I was shielding the child. The second arrow hit my lower back. I bit down so hard I tasted blood, swallowing the scream clawing up my throat. The boy sobbed beneath me, his tiny hands gripping my jacket like it was the only thing keeping him alive. "Don't move," I whispered, breath shaking. "Stay still, sweetheart." The third arrow pierced my side. The world tilted. Warm wetness soaked through my clothes, blood mixing with rain. My arms trembled, but I locked them around him, refusing to let go. Growls thundered closer. The ground vibrated beneath my cheek as massive paws hit the earth nearby. Courage isn't the absence of fear. The fourth arrow struck my upper thigh. Darkness ate at the edges of my vision. Voices rose around me, shouts, orders, sharp commands, and then I heard him, the Alpha King. The pressure above me vanished. Through the blur, I saw a massive black wolf, bigger than any wolf I'd ever seen, tear into the infected creature with brutal precision. Within seconds, the monster collapsed. Hands touched me, gentle, careful, trying to turn me over. No, I slurred, still clinging to the child. Is he hurt? A voice answered, deep, rough, the Alpha King's voice, but there was something different in it now, something raw. Let him go, he said, let me see you. The boy, I murmured, my grip was fading. Please, he's safe. You saved him, he said, and his voice cracked. Actually cracked. My arms finally gave out. They lifted the boy away, and I heard him crying for me, this stranger who had thrown her breakable body over him. Hands pressed against my wounds, but the cold was swallowing everything. My gaze drifted upward and met the Alpha King's eyes. They weren't distant or hard anymore. They were wide with horror, disbelief, something almost fragile. Why? He asked softly. Why would you do that? I tried to smile, though I'm not sure my face managed it. He's just a child. The last thing I saw before the darkness closed in was a single tear sliding down the face of the most powerful wolf in 3 territories. A man who hadn't cried, they said, since the night his mate died. The last thing I felt was his hand cupping my face, warm and shaking, as if I was something precious. As if I mattered, I woke to white. Not the gentle kind, this was the sharp, sterile white of the pack's medical wing. Every breath stabbed through my ribs. When I tried to move, fire shot through my entire body. A small sound escaped me before hands pressed gently to my shoulders. Don't move. A woman's voice, steady, firm, kind. You've been healing for 3 days, you're nowhere near ready to sit up. 3 days. My eyes focused slowly. Dr. Chen stood over me, the pack's head physician. In her 50s, hair streaked with silver, eyes that had seen more injuries than most soldiers. But when she looked at me, there was something different there, respect. The arrows, I croaked, my throat raw and dry. Removed, she said. You're lucky, none hit anything vital, though one came dangerously close to your kidney. She adjusted the IV beside me. We had to give you werewolf blood transfusions to replace what you lost. It won't change what you are, but it will help you heal faster. The words sank in slowly, werewolf blood in me. I should have been terrified. Instead, it felt far away, muted by pain, medicine, and exhaustion. The boy, I whispered. Is he okay? Dr. Chen nodded. Prince Finn is perfectly fine, not a single scratch. Doctor. Chen's expression softened, her voice dropping to something almost tender. Prince Finn is alive because of you. I'd always known the Alpha King had a son, but hearing his name, it hit differently. Suddenly he wasn't just a title or a rumor tucked away in the pack's gossip. He was a real child, with gray eyes full of tears, a shaking voice, and tiny fingers that had clung to my jacket like he thought I was the only safe place left in the world. The door opened, and I expected a nurse, maybe Ella, checking in. Instead, 6 wolves walked in. Warriors, men and women who'd barely looked at me for years, and then all at once they knelt. Every single one of them dropped to one knee beside my bed. Wolves older than me, stronger than me, wolves who had long ago decided I wasn't worth their attention, all kneeling. We owe you a debt, said Garrett, the scarred warrior who once told me I was too fragile to train anywhere near him. His voice cracked. You protected our prince when we failed, you took arrows meant to kill a monster, and you didn't let go. I stared at him, dazed and overwhelmed. He was scared, I whispered. Your pack now, said a young woman with soft eyes. Truly pack, not tolerated, honored. What you did, there are no words for it. They stayed kneeling until I nodded, awkward, unsure, barely understanding what I was accepting. Then they rose one by one, touching a hand to their heart as they passed my bed. A gesture I had only ever seen directed at the Alpha King himself. When the room finally emptied, it was just Dr. Chen and me again. You've caused quite a stir, she murmured, a knowing smile tugging at her lips. The Alpha King has been here every night. He sits in that chair by the window from midnight until sunrise, watching you breathe. Her hand drifted toward a deep leather chair in the corner, one I hadn't noticed before. He leaves before the morning staff arrives, she added. But I work late, I've seen him. My heart twisted in a way I couldn't name. The Alpha King here watching me? Why, I whispered. Dr. Chen's smile faded into something gentler, sadder. His son is everything to him. After Queen Helena died, Finn became his entire world. And you threw yourself between that child and death without hesitation. She adjusted my bandages, her touch careful. You reminded him that there's still goodness in the world, that courage still exists. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that anyone would have done the same. But she and I both knew the truth. In that clearing, when everyone else shifted into battle mode and chaos swallowed the forest, I'd been the only one close enough, the only one fragile enough to be hit by friendly fire. And still, I chose to shield a child who wasn't mine. Sleep, Dr. Chen said softly. You'll need your strength. Something tells me your life is about to get complicated. She had no idea how right she was. For 2 more days, I drifted in and out of dreams. Every time I woke, something new waited for me, fresh flowers that smelled of pine and rain, books I'd mentioned wanting years ago, a soft blanket in royal blue and silver. And once in the deepest part of the night, I saw him, the Alpha King. He sat in the chair by the window, his dark hair messy, his broad shoulders weighed down by exhaustion. But his eyes never left me. They were intense, haunting, almost painful in the way they studied me. Instead of fear, I felt something else, something strange and warm. Seen. Truly seen, our eyes met through the dim light. You should be sleeping, I whispered, my voice barely a breath. He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward slowly, elbows resting on his knees. So should you, he said quietly. You're the one full of holes. A faint, tired smile touched his lips. And I'm the one who can't stop seeing you covered in blood, still holding my son, still asking if he was hurt before you'd even let us move you. Silence stretched between us, heavy but not uncomfortable. More like gravity pulling 2 things closer. What's your name? He asked suddenly. Your real name, they call you Sarah, but that's not, it doesn't suit you. I hesitated, then exhaled. Seraphina, my mother named me after angels. She had a strange sense of humor. His eyes softened in a way I'd never seen. Angels are warriors, he said, fierce protectors. Maybe she knew something. My throat tightened. I'm not a warrior. You took 4 arrows. His voice deepened, rough, a little broken. You didn't scream, you didn't let go. And the first thing you asked was whether my son was hurt. He rose from the chair, moving toward me with the quiet, fluid grace of a born predator, of a king. You are the definition of a warrior, Seraphina. Don't ever diminish what you did. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. His fingers brushed a strand of my damp blonde hair away from my face, so gentle it nearly made me cry. My son wants to meet you, he said quietly, when you've healed a little more. He asks for you every day. He calls you the lady with the yellow hair who kept him safe. My chest tightened, hard. He has nightmares, the Alpha King went on, voice rough at the edges. But when he wakes up crying, he remembers your voice telling him everything would be okay. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'd like to meet him too. He hesitated, as if choosing his next words with care. And I want to know you, he said at last. Not the silent ghost I've watched on the edge of the pack for years. I want to know the woman who ran toward danger instead of away from it. My mother taught me, I whispered, to choose compassion even when fear says run. Something shifted in his face, pain, understanding, a strange flicker of awe. She must have been remarkable, he murmured. She was. He stayed with me until I drifted off, his presence warm and steady in the dim room, like a calm heartbeat pulling me away from the edge of darkness. When I finally woke for real, the sunlight was golden and warm, stretching across the blankets. I tested my body carefully. The awful stabbing pain was gone, replaced by deep aches that throbbed but didn't steal my breath. Doctor. Chen called it a miracle, though she said it was really the werewolf blood and my stubborn will to survive. You have a visitor, she said, helping me sit up against the pillows. He's been waiting all day, and if I make him wait any longer, I think the Alpha King might actually come down here and yell at me. Before I could ask who she meant, the door eased open, and Prince Finn stepped inside. He was so small up close, dark hair mussed, a stuffed wolf held close to his chest. His gray eyes, the same exact shade as his father's, watched the room with the careful caution of a child who had learned the world could hurt him. Hello, I said softly, the way my mother always spoke to frightened animals. I'm Seraphina. He studied me for several long moments. Then in a whisper barely louder than breath, he said, You're the angel. My heart cracked clean in half. I'm just a person, sweetheart. Daddy says angels are warriors. He stepped closer, clutching his stuffed wolf. He says you saved me even though it hurt you, you were scared. His voice wavered. I didn't want you to be scared alone. He took another small step. Does it still hurt? A little, I admitted, but I'm getting better. When he reached the bed, he climbed up carefully, gentle, cautious, as if afraid he might break me. I didn't move, barely breathed, letting him settle against the uninjured side of my body. He looked up at me with those devastating gray eyes. I dream about the monster, he murmured. But then I remember you, you said you had me. I did, I said softly, and I'll always protect you if you need me. He thought about that, brows furrowing in concentration. Then will you stay? Daddy says you can live in the big house with us. You can have your own room. I can show you my trucks. The big house, the Alpha King's residence, the heart of the pack. Only the most trusted wolves lived there. I didn't even know how to breathe. My small cabin on the outskirts, my invisible life, all of it felt so far away suddenly. This child was offering me something I'd never been given, belonging, home. The door opened again and the Alpha King stepped inside. His eyes found his son curled against me and something soft washed over his face, tenderness, relief. Then his gaze lifted to mine and something deeper flickered there. Something warm, something dangerous. "Finn," he said gently, "you're supposed to let Serafina rest." "I'm being careful," Finn insisted, showing how still he was sitting. The Alpha King came closer and I saw the exhaustion etched into him, dark circles beneath his eyes, tension in every line of his body. A man carrying the weight of a territory and a son. "I see," he said quietly, "you're being very good." Then to me, even softer, "Both of you. Your son is wonderful," I said honestly. "He is." Something passed across his face, quick but sharp. "He's also decided that you're going to live with us. I hope that isn't too much." I told him you might prefer your own space, but please stay, Finn whispered, grabbing my hand with his small one. Two identical gray gazes held me still, one hopeful and young. One older, guarded, but carrying its own quiet hope, and in that moment I realized something my mother would have understood instantly. Sometimes courage isn't running into danger. Sometimes it's saying yes to love when loneliness has been your only shield. "Okay," I whispered, "I'll stay." Finn's whole face lit up bright as sunrise. The Alpha King's eyes closed for a split second, and when he opened them again they shimmered with emotion he tried and failed to hide. "Good," he said, voice rough. "That's good." And for the first time since my mother died, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I'd imagined the Alpha King's home as a cold fortress, stone walls, stiff portraits, a place built for power, not comfort. But 2 weeks after the attack, when Garrett and Dr. Chen helped me through the front door, I was stunned. Warm hardwood floors, soft rugs, sunlight pouring through tall windows, toys in corners, evidence of a child who was loved, truly loved. It felt lived in, safe. "Your room is upstairs," the Alpha King said as he stepped out of what looked like a study. He wore dark jeans and a simple gray Henley that made him seem almost human. Handsome, yes, but softer than the feared ruler everyone whispered about. Still, his eyes held that deep, shadowed grief I'd seen since the night of the attack. "Second door on the left. I arranged it based on things you've mentioned over the years." I blinked at him. "You remember things I said?" A faint flush touched his cheeks, something I never thought I'd witness on the Alpha King. "I pay attention to my pack," he said quietly, "even the ones who think no one sees them. Especially you," his expression seemed to say. Garrett left with a knowing grin. "Doctor." Chen squeezed my hand and whispered, "Take it slow." And then it was just the Alpha King and me in the soft light of the entryway. I suddenly became painfully aware of how fragile I must look, pale, thin, wearing borrowed clothes because everything I owned had been destroyed. "Let me show you," he murmured, offering his arm. I took it, his warmth, his strength. The careful way he adjusted his pace to match mine, it all made something tight in my chest loosen. We went upstairs slowly. Finn's voice drifted from his room, happily talking to himself as he played. Then the Alpha King opened the door to my new room, and I forgot how to breathe. It was beautiful. A big bed covered in a soft cream duvet. A window nook filled with light and cushions in gentle blue tones. Bookshelves lined with stories I'd only dreamed of reading, and on the dresser, a small vase holding wildflowers like the ones that grew in the meadow where my mother used to take me. "How did you?" "Isla helped," he admitted. "She said you spent hours in that meadow on your days off, and I remembered the kinds of books you always picked from the library cart." He paused, unsure. "If it's too much or if I overstepped, it's perfect," I whispered. "I've never had anything this perfect." Silence settled, warm and meaningful. He stood in the doorway watching me, something soft and unreadable in his eyes. "There's something else," he said. "Downstairs when you're ready." Curiosity pulled me after him. He led me into a formal sitting room I hadn't noticed earlier. And there, standing together like a nervous flock of birds, were the pack council members, 5 elder wolves, including Isla. They all stood when I walked in. It felt wrong. These were the people who shaped the pack's future, and I was nothing, or at least I had been. "Serafina," Isla said with genuine warmth, "if you're feeling strong enough, we want to speak with you officially." I glanced at the Alpha King. He gave me a small, reassuring nod. "Of course," I said. The eldest council member, Thomas, with silver hair and eyes that held years of wisdom, stepped forward. "What you did for Prince Finn, there are no words to match it," he said. "You protected the heir to our future. You gave your body, your blood, your very life without hesitation. We wish to honor that." "I don't need to be honored," I said quickly. "I did what any—" "No," Isla said softly. "You did what no one else could or did." Her gaze held mine with gentle truth. "You were the only one close enough, the only one willing to risk everything." Thomas continued, his voice steady. "The Pack Council would like to formally name you Pack Guardian. The title has not been given in 50 years. The last to hold it saved an entire settlement from a burning strike." My breath hitched. You would have a voice in council meetings, he said, protection under pack law and the respect owed to someone who has proven their worth beyond question. The room swayed for a moment. Pack guardian, a seat at the table, a place among wolves who had spent years pretending I didn't exist. They were offering me honor, belonging, a place in the heart of the pack. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I had earned it. I'm human, I said weakly, almost apologizing for it. Your pack, the Alpha King replied, his voice leaving no room for doubt. Worth isn't decided by species, actions decide it. And your actions proved you belong here more than wolves born into this pack. I looked at each council member one by one. There was no mockery, no hesitation, only honest gratitude and respect. I accept, I heard myself say, and I'm honored truly. The stiff formality shattered instantly. Isla hugged me carefully, others smiled, nodding with pride. Warmth radiated through the room, something I'd never once felt from these wolves in all my years among them. When they'd all left, the Alpha King stayed behind. Not too overwhelming, I hope, he said gently. I'm still processing the entire room, I admitted, might take a week. A real smile, soft, warm, so painfully human, lifted his face. It changed everything. For a heartbeat, I saw the man he might have been before grief claimed him. Daddy, Finn's voice echoed from upstairs. Is Seraphina here yet? Yes, River called back. Come down and walk, no running. Tiny feet pounded the floor, then slowed to careful taps. Finn appeared a moment later, clutching his stuffed wolf, eyes bright with hope. You're really staying? He asked, and before I could answer, he threw himself into my arms. I caught him as gently as I could. My ribs protested, but my heart felt huge. I'm staying, I said quietly, holding him close, for as long as you'll have me. I glanced at the Alpha King. His gaze met mine, and something passed between us, something wordless and deep. A question, a wish, a beginning neither of us dared name. That night in my beautiful new room, in a bed softer than anything I'd ever slept in, I cried. Not from pain, from the terrifying, wonderful feeling of being wanted, of mattering, of being chosen instead of merely tolerated. Days settled into a gentle rhythm. Every morning there was fresh coffee waiting in the kitchen, River's quiet way of taking care of me. He was always up early, usually returning from patrol as the first sunlight broke across the windows. We shared small conversations in those early hours, slowly learning each other. I learned that his name was River, that he'd become Alpha King at 25 after his father died suddenly, that he loved his son with a fierce, aching devotion. And that he still blamed himself for not being there the night Finn was attacked, even though he'd been 3 hours away dealing with a territory crisis. He learned I taught myself to read from my mother's medical books. That deep water scared me, but thunderstorms calmed me. That once when life had felt kinder, I dreamed of becoming a teacher. Finn became my shadow. We looked at flowers in the meadow, built forts out of blankets, lined up toy trucks through the hallways. His nightmares eased, though some nights he woke shaking, calling for me. And he wouldn't settle until I sat beside him. He's never bonded to anyone like this, River told me one warm evening on the back porch. Finn napped inside, the air smelled of blossoms and new leaves, not since his mother. I touched the railing lightly. Isla told me what happened, I'm so sorry. His jaw tightened. Helena was murdered by rogues when Finn was 6 months old. Killing the queen was meant to break the pack, and for a while it did. His voice shook. I was useless. Months passed where I barely functioned. If not for the council and wolves like Isla, everything would have fallen apart. But it didn't, I said softly. You stayed, you raised your son, you protected your people by becoming hard when you had to. He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw a raw vulnerability in him I'd never seen before. I forgot how to be anything else, he said. And then you reminded me that there's still softness worth protecting, still beauty, still people who choose love over fear. My breath stumbled. River, I whispered. You don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I'm not asking for anything from you, I just needed you to know what you've given me. It's more than saving Finn's life. A shaky breath. You gave me hope that I can be more than just a king, that I can be a father who smiles, maybe even a man who feels again. I reached out slowly, he didn't pull away, my hand rested on his where it gripped the railing. His fingers turned, threading gently through mine. The touch felt huge, like the beginning of something neither of us had expected but both of us needed. I feel it too, I whispered. Whatever this is, I feel it. We stayed like that as the sun dipped behind the trees. Quiet, close, connected, but peace never lasts. 3 weeks after I moved into the Alpha King's residence, a messenger arrived from the northern pack. River's eyes darkened as he read the letter. His shoulders tensed, and in a single breath, the king replaced the man. There's a gathering, he said as he found me in the sitting room where I'd been reading. All regional alphas meet twice a year, politics, borders, disputes. He hesitated. They're demanding I attend. Another breath, and they want to meet you. Me, I echoed, stunned. Word has spread, he said quietly. A human who took arrows for a werewolf prince. He looked at me like I was something impossible, something rare, something dangerous to his heart. It was something no one had ever seen before. Some treated me like a bridge between two worlds, but others didn't see unity at all. River's jaw tightened as he spoke. They think you're a weakness they can use against us. A cold flutter hit my ribs, but I forced the fear down. When do we leave? He snapped his eyes toward me. Serafina, you don't have to come. I'm the pack guardian now. I lifted my chin, my voice didn't shake. That means I stand with my pack even when it scares me. Something fierce and bright lit up his gaze. Especially then, he murmured, almost proud. Finn took the news horribly. He clung to me like he was drowning, begging to come with us. When River gently explained he had to stay with Isla for safety, Finn broke completely. But what if the monster comes back? He sobbed into my shoulder. Then I'll save you again, I whispered, stroking his dark hair slowly. But this time your daddy and I have to be brave together. Can you be brave here with Isla? He sniffed hard. Will you come back, always? I meant every syllable, I promise. The night before we departed, River found me on the porch again, staring up at the stars scattered across the sky. Second thoughts? He asked as he sat beside me. Terrified thoughts, I confessed. But that's not the same thing. His smile was small, soft. He reached over and carefully tucked a stray piece of my blonde hair behind my ear, his fingertips lingering just a moment too long on my cheek. You've changed everything, he said quietly. So have you. The air between us thickened, warm and electric. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to refuse him. My heartbeat roared in my ears. I gave the tiniest nod. His lips met mine in the gentlest kiss I'd ever felt, slow, tender, so careful it almost hurt. He touched me like I was something fragile he didn't want to break. His hand cradled my face, shaking slightly with the effort of restraint. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. I haven't done that in 5 years, he whispered. My confidence suddenly wavered. Was it okay? He let out a rough, unguarded laugh. Serafina, it was everything. Tomorrow we'd face danger, but under those stars we found something worth fighting for, more than duty, more than survival. We found each other. The gathering was held on neutral ground, a massive stone estate carved into the mountainside. The place looked ancient, powerful, and unforgiving. As our convoy wound up the narrow mountain roads, I pressed my forehead to the window. Dark pine forests opened into harsh cliffs dotted with late spring snow. River sat beside me, resting his hand on my knee like it belonged there. Ever since the kiss, something between us had shifted. Not rushed, not messy, just sure, like we'd both been holding our breath for years and finally let go. Remind me, I said, pulling my gaze from the mountains. Who do I need to watch out for? Connor from the Western Pack, River said, tracing soft circles against my leg with his thumb. Old school, hates humans, thinks I've gone soft. He continued, Dana from the East, sharp eyes, sharper mind, always calculating. She'll be polite, but she'll study everything you do. He hesitated. And Ronan from the South lost his mate last year. He's unpredictable. Grief turns people dangerous. I swallowed. Anyone friendly? Miranda from the Coastal Pack. He softened. Young, progressive, she believes humans and wolves can work together. She'll like you. The estate appeared, towering stone walls, tall windows watching like sentinels. My stomach twisted hard, but I steadied myself. I'd survived arrows. I could survive politics. Neutral wolves greeted us, maintaining the estate year-round. They led us to our quarters, beautiful but empty of warmth. River checked every lock, every window, moving like a man who trusted no one. Stay close to me during the formal sessions, he said, adjusting his jacket. The Alpha King was back in full force, controlled, powerful, but when he looked at me, his eyes softened. And if anyone makes you uncomfortable, tell me right away. I can handle uncomfortable, I said. I know, he murmured, but you don't have to do it alone anymore. The first gathering was a formal dinner, a long, ancient table filled with all the regional alphas. The air hummed with tension. I wore a simple blue dress Isla insisted I take. My blonde hair was pulled back neatly, a balance of beauty and practicality. Eyes followed us the moment we entered. River pulled out my chair himself, a gesture that sparked whispers. I sat between him and a woman with bright auburn hair and clever green eyes. She gave me a warm smile. So you're the famous Serafina? Miranda asked. 4 arrows and still held your ground? Even our wolves don't manage that. I just did what needed to be done, I said quietly. She grinned. Humble too, River, you forgot to mention that part. River didn't deny it, he just looked at me with a faint, proud smile. Across the table, Connor, broad-shouldered, iron-gray hair and a scowl carved so deep it looked permanent, let out a sharp, mocking noise. Impressive or reckless? He said, his voice rough. Getting yourself nearly killed isn't strategy. I kept my tone steady. Neither is standing by and letting a child die when you could stop it. The room fell silent, tension sweeping across the table like a cold wind. Under the table, River's fingers wrapped gently around mine, not to silence me, but to show he was there. Connor's eyes narrowed. Bold words from someone so breakable. Being breakable doesn't mean shattered, I replied, and I'm clearly still here. Miranda let out a bright laugh, a spark of joy in the heavy room. I like her, she said. River, if you ever get tired of her, send her my way. Not a chance, River answered. The possessive note in his voice sent a wave of warmth through me. Dinner carried on with tense political talks, territory lines, hunting rights, resource disputes. I listened carefully, learning how each alpha moved and spoke. Dana matched River's description exactly, sharp eyes, sharp mind, taking in every detail like she was storing it for later use. Ronan barely touched his food. His expression was haunted in a way that made my chest tighten. I recognized the look, someone standing in the shadow of grief. The rest kept their distance, polite but guarded, weighing me with every glance. After dinner, the gathering shifted to a reception in the grand hall. Wolves mingled, forming and breaking alliances with quiet whispers. The atmosphere buzzed with power, and I felt small among creatures who could tear me apart with a single movement. You're doing beautifully, River murmured as he handed me a glass of wine. Connor's already been asked 3 times why he insulted the human who saved the prince. You've made more allies than you think. Before I could respond, Ronan approached. Up close, his pain was written in every line of his face. He looked younger than River, maybe mid-30s, his dark blonde hair tousled, his amber eyes shadowed. May I speak with you? He asked, voice low and rough. Alone. River stiffened beside me, but I touched his arm gently. It's all right. We stepped into a quieter corner, away from the crowds. Ronan stared into his drink for a long moment before he spoke. They told me what you did, he said, taking those arrows, protecting a child who wasn't yours. He lifted his eyes and grief flickered there like a dying flame. My mate died protecting our daughter from rogues. She took a blade meant for our little girl. And his voice cracked. She didn't make it. My heart twisted painfully. I'm so sorry. Everyone tells me she was brave, he whispered, that she died a warrior, but all I feel is fury that she had to die at all. His hands shook around the glass. Then I hear about you, a human doing the same thing and living, and I don't know if I'm angry or grateful or just lost. And then I understood. He wasn't challenging me, he wasn't threatening me. He saw me as a reminder of something he'd lost, a shield that survived when his hadn't. Your mate was courageous, I said softly, and your daughter is brave for carrying that loss. You don't have to pick between your grief and your gratitude, both can live inside you. He held my gaze for a long, heavy moment, then he nodded. River's lucky to have you, he said. I'm lucky to have him. Don't let Connor twist that. Men like him fear change. They fear anything that challenges the old ways. He took a final drink. But change is already here, you're the proof. He walked away, leaving his words echoing inside me. River was at my side instantly. What did he say? Nothing dangerous, just grief. River pulled me close, his arm circling my waist. You have this strange ability to reach people right where they hurt. My mother used to say pain recognizes its own. When the reception finally ended, we returned to our suite. River helped with the zipper on my dress, his fingers brushing softly along my spine. The intimate touch made my breath hitch. You were incredible tonight, he murmured, placing a warm kiss against my shoulder. Connor looked like he swallowed broken glass when Miranda praised you. I turned toward him, the dress slipping slightly. His gaze darkened, heat flickering there, but his hands stayed respectful, waiting. River, I whispered, I need you to understand something. I'm not fragile, not where it matters. I know, he said, he cupped my face gently, but you're precious and I've lost precious things before. So forgive me if I'm careful. I kissed him then, not soft like the porch kiss, but deeper, more desperate. His control slipped, and for a moment I felt everything he'd been holding back, the hunger, the loneliness, the need. But he broke the kiss with a shaky breath, resting his forehead to mine. Not here, he said roughly, not in this place. When I have you fully, it'll be somewhere safe, somewhere that belongs to us. The promise in his voice sent a shiver all the way down my spine. Morning came with the formal council session. All the alphas gathered in a towering hall filled with advisors and honored pack members. I sat beside River as pack guardian, feeling every stare settle on me. Connor spoke first, his voice booming. I'd like to address the obvious, he said. King River has brought a human into our gathering, a human he is clearly romantically involved with. This is a dangerous precedent. And just like that, the hall erupted with tension. How exactly is it dangerous? Miranda shot back, her tone sharp but controlled. She's already shown more loyalty than wolves born into packs. She's a weakness, Connor growled. A target, anyone who wants to hurt River now knows exactly where to strike. River's hand tightened on the arm of his chair, muscles bunching as if he were resisting the urge to launch across the table. But before he could speak, I rose to my feet. The hall went utterly still. May I say something? I asked, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was pounding hard enough to shake my ribs. River nodded, pride and worry tangled together in his eyes. I turned fully toward Connor. You're right, I said simply. I am human, I can be hurt, I can be killed. That makes me a potential target. I paused, letting the truth hang in the air. But I'm also the woman who took 4 arrows and didn't let go of a terrified child. I chose pain instead of abandoning someone helpless. And if you see weakness in that, I shook my head, then you've forgotten what real strength is. I swept my eyes across the room, meeting every stare I could. Strength isn't just claws and fangs. It's choosing to protect someone even when the cost is more than you think you can bear. It's standing up when kneeling would be easier. It's loving when you know love can break you. My voice steadied, stronger now. Yes, I'm a target, but I'm also a shield. And I'll keep being a shield for the people I love, whether you approve or not. Silence swallowed the room, then unexpectedly Dana began to clap slow and deliberate. Miranda joined, then Ronan, then wolves I'd never even spoken to. Even a few of Connor's own advisors followed. Connor's face darkened, but he said nothing as he sank back into his seat. River's hand closed over mine, squeezing so hard it almost hurt. When I glanced at him, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. The meeting continued, but the atmosphere had changed. I hadn't spoken for River, I'd spoken for myself. And in doing so, I'd claimed my place beside him, not as a burden, but as someone who had earned respect with her own hands. The attack that night, the world shifted again. We were asleep when the alarm shattered the quiet, a piercing, echoing cry that made River jolt upright. He shifted before I fully understood what was happening, his enormous black wolf form filling the room like a shadow come alive. Stay here, he growled, his voice carrying both human command and wolf instinct. Lock the door behind me. But I'd learned who I was in that clearing weeks ago. I didn't hide while the people I loved bled. I grabbed the silver dagger River insisted I keep and followed him into the hallway. Chaos swallowed the estate. Rogues, wild, feral wolves with no loyalty to any pack had breached the grounds. Their goal was obvious: take out the alphas, collapse the leadership, leave the territories helpless. I saw Miranda locked in combat with 3 rogues at once, smaller than them but quick as lightning. I saw Ronan fight with brutal rage, tearing through attackers like they were nothing more than shadows in his path. I saw River coordinating defenses while shoving weaker wolves behind him, shielding them even as he fought. And then I saw her. A young girl, maybe 10, trapped in a corner between 2 snarling rogues. She was shaking, too terrified to shift, too frozen to run. No one was close enough. I moved before I could think, sprinting toward her. Hey, I screamed, desperate to drag their focus from her. One rogue turned immediately, baring its teeth. I had no arrows this time, but I had a knife and a reason to fight. It lunged. I ducked aside and slashed. Silver tore into fur and skin. The creature howled, more shocked than wounded. The second rogue leapt for the girl. I didn't think, I threw myself between them, dagger raised. The impact slammed into me, knocking the breath from my lungs. I hit the floor hard, but I'd bought her time. She scrambled away, crying and screaming for help. The rogue above me lifted a claw for the killing blow, and then River was there. A black blur, fury unleashed. He tore the rogue off me, ending the fight in seconds. The second rogue fled. Once the perimeter was secured and the chaos eased, River shifted back and dropped to his knees beside me, his hands running over every inch of me, frantic. Are you hurt? His voice shook. I'm okay, I whispered. The girl's safe. He pulled me against his chest, his heart pounding violently against my cheek. God, Serafina, when I saw you jump in front of her, I know, I murmured, but I can't be anything other than who I am. He pressed a trembling kiss to the top of my head. I know, he breathed, and I love you for it, I love you. The world seemed to stop. I pulled back, my voice barely a whisper. Say it again. I love you, he said, his voice breaking. I've been falling since the moment you asked about my son before yourself, and after what I saw tonight, I can't pretend anymore. I love you too, I said, and the truth of it sank deep into me, warm and solid. I think I have for weeks. Around us, healers moved, warriors regrouped, bodies were tended to, but for a moment, none of that existed. It was just us, 2 people who'd survived fire, fear, and the worst night of our lives, finally speaking the truth out loud. The attack changed everything. By dawn, the real story behind it began to emerge. They hadn't been random rogues. They were hired by a group inside Connor's own pack, wolves who believed humans poisoned werewolf society and wanted to make a bloody example by killing me in front of every regional alpha. And the child I'd risked my life for, she was Connor's granddaughter. Just after sunrise, Connor came to our suite. He looked destroyed, like he'd aged 10 years in one night. River stepped between us at first, shoulders tense, protective, but I touched his arm. He hesitated, then let me face Connor directly. I owe you my granddaughter's life, Connor said. His voice had none of the arrogance he usually carried. And I owe you an apology. I judged you wrong, your strength, your place, what it means to be part of a pack. His throat worked as he continued. The wolves who hired those rogues have been exiled. They're nothing to me now, nothing to my pack. I could have thrown his earlier insults back at him, but instead I thought of my mother and the kindness she always chose, even when she was afraid. Your granddaughter is brave, I said softly. She'll remember that someone protected her. Make sure she learns that protecting others isn't weakness, it's the heart of everything. His eyes shone with emotion. He gave one deep nod, then left without another word. River pulled me into his arms the second the door closed. He buried his face in my hair like he needed the scent of me to steady himself. You're going to save the world with that heart of yours, he whispered. I just want to save the people right in front of me, I murmured. That afternoon, the gathering ended with a historic vote. For the first time, every regional alpha agreed that humans, if they proved themselves through action, not blood, could earn honored positions within packs. They named it the Serafina Accord. Pride and embarrassment hit me at the same time. Miranda hugged me tightly before she left. You changed things, she said, voice thick with feeling. Truly changed them, thank you. Ronan clasped my hand with surprising warmth. My daughter wants to meet you one day, he said. She wants to talk to someone who knows what it's like to lose someone yet still choose courage. Anytime, I promised. Truly. Even Dana, sharp-eyed, calculating Dana, gave me a respectful nod. You're either very clever, she said, or very sincere, I haven't decided which. Either way, you've earned your place. The drive home felt different. River never let go of my hand. Our fingers stayed laced together tight as if letting go might break something fragile between us. We talked about everything, his hopes for Finn, my quiet dream of teaching children someday. How we'd navigate a relationship that had never existed before in werewolf history. I want to court you properly, River said as we neared Pack Land. Not just fall into this because of chaos and danger. You deserve romance, dates, flowers, things I haven't given anyone in years. I'd like that, I whispered. Though you already gave me flowers, the wild ones you left in my room. Those don't count, he said with a small smile. I'm going to fill our home with them until you're sick of the sight. Our home. I repeated the words under my breath. They felt right, too right. When we arrived, Finn was already on the porch with Issa. The moment he spotted us, he bolted forward. River barely opened the door before Finn flew into our arms. You came back. He cried, clinging to both of us. You promised and you came back. Always, I whispered, hugging him tight. I'll always come back to you. Inside, Issa had dinner waiting. We ate together, River, Finn, and me. It felt shockingly natural, like we had always been a family. Finn talked nonstop about everything he'd done, how he helped Issa bake cookies, how he was brave even when he felt scared. I was brave like you, he told me seriously, like you taught me. You were, I said, smiling at him. I'm very proud of you. Putting him to bed took 3 stories, 2 glasses of water, and a solemn promise that I'd still be there in the morning. Only when he finally slept did River and I step out onto the back porch, the place that felt like ours. The night was warm, filled with the soft hum of crickets and the sweet scent of jasmine drifting through the air. I meant what I said earlier, River murmured, wrapping an arm around me. I love you, and I want a life with you, whatever that looks like. I want that too, I answered. Then I looked him straight in the eyes. But you need to understand something. I'm still going to run toward danger when someone needs help. I can't change that part of myself. I know. He cupped my face gently, thumb brushing my cheek. And I'm not going to ask you to change, but I will stand beside you when you do. We'll be brave together. Together. That word settled deep inside me. River kissed me then, slow, deep, filled with every promise he didn't say out loud. His fingers slid into my blonde hair and I felt the tremble in his touch, the desire he was trying to hold back. When we finally parted, we were both breathing hard. Come to bed with me, he whispered against my lips. Not here in our home. Let me show you how much you matter to me. I nodded. I couldn't speak. That night, he loved me with a tenderness that shattered me and put me back together. He touched every scar the arrows had left, kissed each one like a vow, whispering that they were marks of courage, not shame. He was gentle and fierce all at once, showing me through every touch what words could never fully express, that I was cherished, wanted, loved more deeply than I had ever imagined. Afterward, wrapped in his arms with our breaths slowly matching, I felt a peace I'd never known. Like all the wandering and hurting I'd done in my life had been leading me to this one moment, to this one man to marry me, River whispered into the darkness. I froze, my breath caught. What? I asked, barely able to speak. Marry me, he said again, lifting himself up on one elbow so he could see my face. I know it's fast, I know we're still learning each other, but I've spent 5 years feeling half alive and you brought me back. I don't want to lose another second without being completely yours. My eyes flooded instantly, warm tears slid down my cheeks before I could stop them. Yes, I breathed. Yes, of course, yes. He kissed me slow and soft, tasting my tears as they fell. I felt him smile against my mouth, like my answer had given him his whole world back. The weeks after that felt like a storm of joy. The pack celebrated our engagement with real excitement, no tension, no forced politeness. Even wolves who once looked at me like I didn't belong now greeted me like I was one of their own. Issa cried so hard when she hugged me that my ribs popped. Garrett announced he was personally taking over my training, claiming the pack guardian needed to learn how to hit back, not just get knocked down. And Finn glowed. He told everyone who would listen that Serafina was going to be his new mama, his whole little face shining with pride. We married on a warm summer evening in the meadow where wildflowers grew thick and tall. It was a small gathering, our pack and the allies we'd gained at the meeting. Miranda came, Ronan brought Emma, even Dana sent a gift and her respects. I wore a simple white dress and Issa wove flowers into my blonde hair. River wore formal attire but kept smiling like he couldn't believe this was real. The Alpha King looked nothing like the stern ruler from months ago. He looked like a man drowning in happiness. Finn carried the rings with a seriousness that melted my heart. When River placed the band on my finger, his hands trembled. I promise to protect you, he said, voice raw, to honor your courage, to stand beside you in every danger, and to love you for all the days I have left. My own vows came through tears. I promise to be your shield when you need one, to love your son like he's mine, to choose compassion over fear, and to remind you every day that you're not alone anymore. When we kissed, the pack let out a howl that rolled through the mountains, wild, joyous, completely free. The celebration carried on until dawn. We danced beneath the stars. We ate food the pack had made with love. We were surrounded by people who had become family. At one point, Emma, Ronan's quiet 8-year-old, took my hand like I was something out of a storybook. My mama was brave like you, she whispered. Daddy said you got hit with arrows and didn't fall. Your mother was braver, I told her gently. She gave everything she had. I just survived, but you lived, Emma said, her eyes too wise for her age. So you can teach people how to be brave too. Can you teach me? My throat tightened painfully. Yes, sweetheart, I whispered. I will. Ronan approached, having heard us. Thank you, he said quietly, for giving her hope, for proving bravery doesn't always end in loss. Sometimes it ends in love, I replied, watching River twirl Finn around the dance floor, both of them laughing so hard it echoed. As sunrise painted the sky, River and I slipped away to the residence that was now truly ours. Finn stayed with Issa for the night, giving us privacy. River carried me over the threshold despite all my protests. We were both laughing like children. Welcome home, Mrs. King, he murmured in my ear. I've been home since the moment you looked at me like I mattered, I whispered back. Our wedding night felt different from the first time we had been together. No fear, no urgency, just certainty, just love. We took our time, learning each other slowly, like every touch was a promise we intended to keep. River explored me as if mapping every inch of me into memory, and I gave him all of myself without hesitation. Later, wrapped in his arms, my cheek resting against his chest, I thought of my mother, her lessons about gentleness and bravery. I hoped she could see this, see me safe. Loved, chosen. What are you thinking? River asked, his fingers tracing soft patterns over my shoulder. That my mother would have loved you, I whispered, this home. And Finn, I whispered, resting my hand over his, I wish you could have met her. His brows softened, waiting. She's here, I said quietly. In every choice I make, every time I choose love instead of fear. So in a way you already know her. River kissed my forehead gently like the touch itself was a thank you. Then I'm grateful to her, he murmured, for raising someone as extraordinary as you. The months that followed weren't perfect. Change never came easy. Some packs resisted. Some wolves still clung to old traditions and insisted humans should stay at the bottom. But slowly, step by step, the world shifted. More packs began letting humans rise through the ranks. Mixed marriages, once impossible, became accepted. River and I became symbols without meaning to. The Alpha King who learned to love again, and the human who showed that strength came in many shapes. Finn blossomed. His confidence grew, and the nightmares that once haunted him disappeared. He called me Mama freely, and every time he said it, my heart felt too full for my chest. Our family dinners became a sacred ritual. No meetings, no duties. Just the three of us around the table, laughing, eating, living like a real family. And I did start teaching, nothing formal, just sessions for pack children, human and wolf alike. I taught them letters, stories, and the lessons my mother had given me. That compassion is a form of strength, that protecting others is a choice, that gentleness can change lives. Sometimes River sat quietly at the back, pretending he wasn't staring at me with open adoration. The children noticed. They giggled. I blushed every time. Nearly a year after our wedding, we sat together on the porch as the sun dipped behind the treetops. Finn was inside drawing pictures of his new baby sister. I was 6 months pregnant with her, a daughter we'd already named Helena after River's first mate. I'd been the one to suggest it, and River had cried harder than I'd ever seen. Do you ever regret it? He asked softly, resting his warm hand on my swollen belly. Taking those arrows, everything that came after. I thought of the pain, the fear, the moments I wasn't sure I'd live long enough to breathe again. Then I thought of this life, this porch, this sunset, the laughter inside, the child growing strong within me. Not for a single second, I said. Those arrows brought me here, to you, to our family, to a life I never imagined. You saved more than Finn that night, River whispered. You saved me. We saved each other, I replied. As darkness settled and the first stars appeared, River drew me closer. Inside, Finn called for us excitedly, wanting us to see his newest drawing. Our daughter kicked hard against my ribs, full of life and strength. I thought of the girl I used to be, quiet, tolerated, always on the outside looking in. She never would have believed this future belonged to her. But here I was, Seraphina King, pack guardian, wife, mother, teacher. No longer unseen, no longer surviving, living, loved, whole. When I closed my eyes, I could almost hear my mother's voice in the wind. You chose compassion over fear, my girl. Look what it gave you, look at the life you built. The arrows had left 4 silver scars along my skin. Once they were marks of pain. Now they were beautiful, proof that sometimes you get hurt because you loved someone enough to step between them and danger. That night I fell asleep in River's arms. Our son safe in the next room, our daughter strong and growing inside me, and I knew with absolute certainty I would take those arrows again 1,000 times over. Because real love, fierce, healing, transforming love was always worth the pain. And this life, this beautiful, impossible life was worth everything.